I was so nervous. I was like, did I even make it? Because I am incapable. I can't do this. It really killed my self-esteem. It really killed my spirit. It really killed me as a person.
We don't have teachers who have the time necessarily to sit one-on-one, even in an Elson group, to sit one-on-one and understand your situation, to understand where the child comes from. I'm also very much a believer that we have to introduce our cultural languages into our schooling system. So from very young, a child only has their home language in their
system,
yes,
in their being.
Yes.
So
That's
true.
their identity. That's who they are. Your culture is not as important. And we cannot do that, because that's when a child's self-esteem, regardless of whether they have learning impairments or not, dissolves.
Hello, everyone. It is your girl, yes, your woman of controversial engagement. That is me, Ria Sia. And we're out here today having an important conversation. And our topic today is the gap. The gap. There is a gap. There is a gap. And not only any gap, today we are talking about the gap in education. You know, you find that there is a school for special kids. That is, I'm going to introduce you now to who I have. You know who I have. I think some of you already know, right? But we'll do the intros. But then there is a gap in the educational system where parents, as we speak now, they are still waiting for their children to be enrolled in school. Trust me, I had the first hand of that, because my daughter was going to high school. And she only started school somewhere later in January, okay? She was not so happy with me, but she was enrolled. And that is our frustration as parents. But not only that, we tend to find out that there's also frustration in the institution. And that's why today I'm joined by Dr. Tracey. Dr. Tracey, welcome!
Thank you to you.
It's so good to have you. Say hi to everyone.
Hello, Tintswalo. It's lovely to be here with you. Yeah, it is such a pleasure to be here chatting with you. We've known each other for a very long time, and you're as beautiful as ever, as every woman is. So thank you so much for your time and having me on.
Wow.
I look forward to chatting with you about our women and our little ones and our everybody.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tracey. It's always a pleasure to have you. I think you've seen her on Dress in Confidence that we did. And not only that, we've been like hand in a glove type of a thing because of the GAP college that she runs, of which we'll jump into that just shortly.
Thank you.
Tintswalo, how are you, Mrs. South Africa? Look at my earring falling off because of your greatness. How are you?
Thanks, and how are you?
Yeah.
Hi, guys.
Good morning, Tintswalo. It's lovely to be
Say
here.
hi to everyone.
Hi, guys.
So, Tintswalo Ngobeni-Mahlangu is the Mrs. South Africa semi-finalist 2026. She's looking as fine as ever. And thank you so much.
I'm very honored to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Tracey, we're going to just jump in with you, obviously, just to introduce yourself as to who we are. I know who you are, but they don't know who you are. So if you can briefly just take us through that.
Thank you so much, Ria. A pleasure again to be with you, Tintswalo, and congratulations. To the production team and to everyone who puts this together, and Ria behind it, thank you.
You're welcome.
My background is clinical psychology, and I have a special interest in early intervention in children who are intellectually impaired, emotionally impaired, barriers to learning, physically and mentally impaired children, particularly. And the early intervention that we've been running has given us astounding results, measurable results. And that is something that we are trying to get government to understand. So they have done research projects, but there's no implementation in the ECD phases. So we are one of the very, very few intervention programs that are run for special needs children, or differently able children, as I prefer to call them, in the early stages of development. So we're looking from 3 years old, which is usually when a diagnosis can be made, right up until about 7. And then when we get them into the schooling environment, and we give them a program that then sets them up for success in their futures, we're finding tremendous results just with what we're doing. It's a different methodology, and it's there's a lot of attention, one-on-one attention for the children. It has been incredible over the last 8 years. As an NGO, we have the usual NGO difficulties and challenges. And we do know, I am very, very well understand the challenges that parents have. We mostly have single mother families, and even children households, children-headed households with special needs children, because there is still a stigma attached to in certain communities, which we need to educate people on and make them more aware of the fact that we limit these children because of a diagnosis, where when we allow that diagnosis just to sit in the background, we allow them to overcome their limits, and they usually can. Cerebral palsy children, we've seen the most amazing results with them. So yes, it's as I say, I've known you for a long time, and you've seen us grow, and you've seen the challenges we've gone through. And 8 years down the line, we are putting training together for parents. So they don't necessarily have to be a part of the school, but they're welcome to come in. And we have a nice spread for them, refreshments and the like. And they can interact with each other and engage with us, and a little bit of how to make their lives easier. How to overcome the stigma, how mom can support herself while she has this enormous task and challenge of supporting her child or children, and it's just the most rewarding program that I could ever have wished to be a part of.
I'm going to be biased because I'm part of almost like the program. So I'm like, I know.
So we were in a very large building, which we unfortunately lost tenure of.
Of which we're going to talk about it very shortly.
Yes, we're going to talk about that. And so now what we've done is we've gone NLC charity route, where we are back in smaller premises, and we're working much better with the one-on-one and very select therapists and educators. So we're doing well.
We're gonna be digging deep into this, okay? We're gonna be digging deep into this, Dr. Tracy, in terms of that.
Thank you.
Tintswalo, introduce yourself as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Tintswalo Ngobeni-Mahlangu.
Yes.
I am a devoted mother. I am a healthcare professional. I'm based in the East Rand of the east of Johannesburg rather. I am 33 years old, and I am a Miss South Africa 2026 semi-finalist.
I think the nice thing about you, Tintswalo, is take us into your family structure, because I was starstruck in terms of her family and sort of like diversity, and like as young as she is, I'm like, what a powerhouse of a woman you are. So take us through your family structure.
Okay, so we are a blended family, right? My husband came with a daughter to the marriage, and I came with my son. We got married together. We were blessed with 2 amazing kids, Laganipo and Oguhle. So it has been a blessing, and we are quite a large family per se, because we do have Karabo, whom we stay with, whom we've raised. whom we encourage to,
Yeah.
to be herself.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh.
Tell me about it, right?
Yes, yes.
So I really enjoyed that background when she told me. I
Yes.
was like, wow, it's a very cool background to have, especially that we don't get to hear about it quite a
No.
lot of recent and young people talking about their families and their blended families and all of that. And when you see such a person, a young person, strong woman like yourself, having to like sort of like ground that type of family, it really is so amazing. And the reason why we have you as well here is take us through your background as a child, and what you stand for, because I know that you are a woman that is advocating for skills development and
100%.
literacy, and there's a reason why that is,
Yeah.
so take us through that a bit.
So growing up, I was, where do I even start? So I repeated grade 1, I think more than 5 times,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken. I couldn't read, I couldn't write, I couldn't, draw, just to mention a few. I had a low self-esteem. I was then taken to an Elson class,
Wow.
right, whereby I'm sure you do know an Elson,
Yes, yes.
so whereby they try to educate you to the level that you are, or where you are. So and then from there onwards, it wasn't an easy journey for me per se, because I was discriminated a lot growing up by other kids. I lost a lot of self-esteem within myself, self-confidence. I never thought I could do this. Imagine at the age of 19 thinking that you can't read because other people believe that you are incapable of doing it. It does block your mind as a person, right? So I then moved over to a fast track class. Fast track, that's where they start teaching you stuff from grade 4, 5, 6, and 7. At that time, I'm 13 years old. We start high school at 14, 13, 14,
13,
somewhere
14,
there.
yeah, you're right.
So my fast track class said to me, you know what, Tintswalo, I need to have a chat with your parents because I do see so much potential in you. I had to go to a skills development school to complete my high school years because I'm not getting any younger, or I'm getting older, right? So when I got there, she had a discussion with my parents. After having a discussion with my parents, she told them that, no, you know what, you need to take this child to a normal high school, right? I was then taken there. I was enrolled. Fine. When I got there, remember, it's a high school next to my primary school. So obviously the kids that were in my primary school are also in that school. So it was difficult for me, like, in full honesty. Even today, like, trying to live in that moment, it still makes me very emotional. Do you understand? So I had to carry myself through. It was my first time having to study Afrikaans as a subject in grade 8. So it was very tough. I don't even know it is. So sorry.
Yeah, no.
So it was tough because you would get kids who would discriminate me and say you are an Elson learner. Even if we are in the same grade. Do you understand? I remember grade 8 when I had to go and get my report card. I was so nervous. I was like, did I even make it? Because I am incapable. I can't do this. I couldn't even carry a novel, open it and read. It was very tough. It really killed my self-esteem. It really killed my spirit. It really killed me as a person. Do you understand? So I really had to carry myself through. I therefore repeated grade 9. When I repeated my grade 9, remember, I'm at the same level as my mates, schoolmates, or my peers rather. Yeah. So when we got there, okay, fine. I told myself, it's a conversation that I really had to have with myself, that Tintswalo, you are capable, girl. You need to pick yourself up. This is something that you need to do for yourself. Do you understand? As much as they think that you cannot do it, you can do it. Put yourself to it.
Sure.
I challenged myself. I completed my grade 9. I completed 10, 11, 12.
Sure.
I even passed my matric nicely so. I am, yes, I
Goosebumping already.
Yes, yes.
So I also studied HIV and AIDS counseling and management because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do after school. My grandfather was like, no, do something that you know can back you up. I am a qualified counselor. And then from there onwards, because of certain circumstances and being young and naive, I couldn't handle certain things at that age. I think I was 22, 23. It was too overwhelming because I used to do adherence counseling mostly.
Sure.
Yeah. So I had to restructure everything and study something else. And then that's when I studied the pharmacist assistant course, at which I'm still at it right now. So now, as I was telling Rhea, I do have a son. He's 11 years old. His name is Tintswalo.
We'll get there.
Oh,
We'll
okay.
get to that. Okay.
All right.
Don't people are on the roll. They want to spill all the bills right now. Okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to your son and all of that. And yes, Dr. Tracey, just listening to Tintswalo's story, which is, you know, the nice thing is it's a success story, you know. How do you handle such a situation when you are the one that is enrolling such a child? How do you address, you know, if a child has difficulties and things like that?
Priority to settle the child down emotionally. Because when a child doesn't have a sense of incapacity or inability, then a child is prepared to do anything, to try absolutely anything. And from what I hear you saying is that you had to have that mindset change, where you had to tell yourself that you were capable beyond the limitations of what we call learners with special educational needs, which is the ELSON classroom. We are a registered ELSON school.
Okay.
And that is what I'm saying. When we take children in, no matter what their age group is, it's easier to intervene in the younger years because we can build that self-esteem, and we can allow the child to develop a self-identity, their own identity, instead of it being forced on them. But what I'm finding is happening out there is that we don't have teachers who have the time necessarily to sit one-on-one, even in an ELSON group, to sit one-on-one and understand your situation, to understand where the child comes from. I'm also very much a believer that we have to introduce our cultural languages into our schooling system. So from very young, a child only has their home language in their system, in their being. Yes. So that's their identity. That's who they are. We bring them into an English schooling environment because we want to produce English-speaking matriculants, humans, because that is the language of the world, forgetting that there is a space for all of the languages. And also when we hold that language development, that home language development, what we're doing is we're saying your culture is not as important. And we cannot do that, because that's when a child's self-esteem, regardless of whether they have learning impairments or not, dissolves. It dissolves because I can't do this. I don't understand that. And then we get to 5 or 6 and we try and assess a child. And we assess them with international psychometry tools. And they're not language fair, they're not cultural fair, they're not, they don't have that fairness of our particular children. So we end up giving them a standard diagnosis. So it's autism with ADHD. And now it's autism with visual stimulation issues, where they're overstimulated visually, and we develop sensory issues in them by trying to premeditate the problem. And I believe it's becoming more and more of an issue. And just listening to what Tintswalo is saying is exactly what we are seeing. We're seeing that. So we cannot limit our children. We cannot say, this is where you have to be, and you're going to repeat grade 1 5 times. Why is it that you have those blocks? Is it because you're thinking in your home language and trying to translate into English? And then we get to grade 8 and they introduce you to the Afrikaans language, which is a difficult language to understand. I believe that if it's taught at a very young age, it
It's
possibly
fair.
is a language that could be an alternative language. But I don't believe we're making enough use of our own cultures and our own languages.
That's so powerful.
Does that resonate with you?
It
Does
does.
Yeah, I think it
actually.
resonates with me because it's so true that we have sort of like taken away our languages, right?
Yes.
And I would see it. My kids, obviously, they go to a multiracial school. They've been studying learning English from a very young age. But the cool thing about them is they also got grandparents that are from Limpopo and like Emakaya, you know? So they would go there and they will see life different for them, and they will start, you know, being curious, like, what language are we speaking? What is our home language? You know, what is daddy speaking? What is mommy speaking? What is my, you know, my parents' language and all of that? And that brought that curiosity. I remember my son was making a joke saying to his grandfather, like, because the grandfather's like, maybe I should have bought a house in the suburbs in Zanin, in Limpopo. And my son's like, it was not going to be cool because it was going to be like, we're in the suburbs going to another suburb, you know? So this is cooler because they're learning quite a lot of, you know, their heritage and their culture and all of that. And it is exactly that stigma, even today, you know, where you find, let's just say, a person that is well able and skilled. Let's talk athletics or soccer. And they have to be interviewed. When they have to answer in their own language, we sort of like demean them. You know, we look at them like, you don't know English, or really, you know. And that is so true that we're starting to have these cultural gaps now as well. That our kids, they get home, or maybe they're staying with grandma, and grandma is speaking isiZulu or isiSotho, and then now the school is saying, hey, English, hey, Afrikaans, you know? And we're starting to have those cultural mind blocks. Yeah. And how's that resonate with you as well, Tintswalo?
Well, we're still on that case. It does resonate with me a lot. I remember having a conversation with you, telling you that sometimes having to go through this journey of Miss South Africa, it also gives me nerves in a sense because I am not well articulated in English.
You
right?
feel.
I feel.
Yes.
She feels.
Yeah, so sometimes I do get that feeling whereby I'm like, how am I even going to address everyone? How am I even going to speak in radio interviews, podcasts, and stuff? But then, you know what? It's not the end of the world. It's not. But then while you're still at it, dog, I remember my upbringing when I was in kindergarten. Mostly we used to speak Sesotho or Sipitori. There's a language called Sipitori. It's Tswana mixed with Pedi and stuff, y'all, because I'm originally from Pretoria.
Okay.
So that's the only language that I knew. And then being taken to a Model C school, having to adjust to everything, I think that was the most common factor that contributed to how everything was executed.
I believe
Do you understand?
so.
Yes. So that's why, and it blocked me as well. It blocked my mindset. It blocked everything. Yeah. Even now, I feel like it does want to come back and block me, but no, I refuse. I'm not going to let it.
What a phenomenal story. What a phenomenal success story. And I do believe that there are hundreds of thousands of young women like you out there who are perhaps seeing you today and resonating with you and saying, but that's exactly it. Because when I understand my home language and I'm just getting it, you come in with a different language and my brain has to process the interpretation and I have to give it out verbally in English. It is or Afrikaans or even another language that we have is very, very difficult. And it's time that we understood that we need to have more of that. And not only that, we don't learn enough about the cultures, and I'm talking about that as a white person. I grew up in the age where everything was censored, and I didn't know, I had no opportunity to watch news. I had no opportunity to read a newspaper that was carrying the truth of what South Africa was going through and what our people were going through. And when I first heard about Nelson Mandela, I think I was in my 30s. So for me, this is, and since then I've been an activist. So for me, this is an incredible eye-opener, and that is what's making my research even more interesting for me and for the people who are around us, so that we can understand where the blocks come from. And I believe that DNA is still there.
It is.
I don't think you can just rip that out of a generation and just say, well, you know nothing about that time, the apartheid era. It's still, it's in our DNA. It's a part of who we are. So we have to overcome that. Look, I don't believe we'll ever have equality. I don't think. I think that's something we could strive for.
We're striving for it.
We're striving for it. But with people like you, young people, young producers of this kind of show, young people is who we are going to live to enjoy the fruits. The fruits of what they've created for us. Because let's face it, we haven't left you a very kind way of life, have we?
No.
So, well done, well done. And
so
I know that that's going to inspire all of those young girls out there
Definitely.
who are watching you.
And
boys.
And boys, of course.
Definitely.
I think for me as well is, I don't know how my kids are like special. They just sort of like would ask you questions and you're like, I'm actually preparing for a podcast. We're going to talk about that. Type of a thing. Because they would ask like those deep questions as to what is my home language and all of that. And recently they were just asking me about why did I not go. Oh, we're actually laughing about my primary school. Because I said to my husband, we were talking, I don't know what we were talking about, but I said, oh no, Ezimele, my primary school, and my daughter looked at me like, Ezimele, what is that? I'm like, that's my primary school. You must respect it. I'm like, oh, why do you not go to Van Dijk? Because she's going to London School Van Dijk. It's like, why do you not go to? I'm like, in my time, we were still not allowed to go to those schools. But when I was in high school, we are now allowed to go to multiracial schools. And I was explaining that to her. And like, oh, okay, so what does it mean? And I'm like, now I have to explain, like, it's the school that you're in now. That everybody's mixed race and everybody's there. And those are the things that then she said, oh, so why did you want to go? I'm like, no, my mom wanted me to go, but when it was introduced, you needed to repeat the standard. So if I was doing grade 8, I needed to repeat the grade 8 so that I can measure if I have integrated well in the school and adjusted to the sort of the syllabus at that time. And I refused because I was like, no, all my friends are going to grade 8 and going back to grade 8 twice. What do you mean, girl? I ain't doing that, But those are the kind of schools that we've been, and the cultural gap that we're talking about, and the schools that we see now that are coming up or sprouting out. But talking about the schools, Dr. Tracey, why the Gap College? Because you opened the Gap College. Why the Gap College?
The Gap fills a gap. Quite literally fills that gap. And there is a massive, massive gap between impoverished children who do not have access to facilities, parents who don't have access to facilities. And the idea is, if we're going to try and push ourselves towards equality, we need to do something that is going to assist those children to come into the environment, to see what is available to them, to see how they can change their mindsets, to see how they can become articulate in English, and you are, and in their own languages too. Let us make them aware of the world out there in which they are going to have to function. They are not going to be in a rural society forever. They are not. It has to change. Things have to change. That is the way we're going to evolve as a people, as a South Africa, and it's the way that we're going to be able to provide opportunity to those who don't have those opportunities. So the gap is literally the idea is to fill a gap where children who perhaps find themselves having to repeat grade 1 5 times can come to us after the second year and say, Mom can say there's something not right here. And we then can take them through those steps, and you won't have to do it again. You won't have to repeat the grade again. I do believe that the number of private schools that are popping up all over the place are deepening, widening that gap between our children who have opportunity and our children who don't. And that for me is very alarming and very concerning. And
that's so true. I think that's so true, because now remember, while our kids are still excited to go to a multi-racial school, they also have to also compete with the standard of the school, because now it's like, no, I'm not now Elokshini, now I'm in the suburbs, and now when I'm in the suburbs, which school are you in the suburbs? And then the parents are like, oh, you cannot be in this same school as this, so we need to go a bit, and it's now sort of like, it's not about education anymore, but it's about the status anymore, as well. And talking about that, Dr. Trace, I just want to bring in Tintswalo in terms of children, take us through your son, like, children not being able to access these schools and to not be able to go to these facilities. Tell us a bit about that journey for you right now.
Okay, so I do have an 11-year-old son. His name is Ntsako. He's such a sweetheart, sweetest boy ever. Very humble, very handsome.
From the pictures that I saw,
he is handsome as well. Very. So I don't want to say Ntsako inherited what I had, but then he also has learning I don't even want to say incapabilities. But he also has learning barriers and challenges, right? So he's 11 years old. Ntsako can't read. He can't write. He has a very low self-esteem. He's an introvert. He isolates himself so much. Every day, he stays with my parents, right? They stay in Pretoria. Every day, I live with the fear of, what if my son is being bullied at school? Do you understand? What if one day I wake up and then they tell me that your son committed suicide? Because it does lead to such things, do you understand? So it's something that's very deep to my heart. Even talking about it, it just
opens up that wound.
it just opens up that wound. So through my Mrs. South Africa journey, I really, really, really want to advocate for skills development. Reason being, I want to support kids like Ntsako. Let's talk about Ntsako more. So I remember there was a time whereby Ntsako was like, Mama, I can't do this. I'm like, Ntsako, try to read. He's like, Mama, I can't. I am really facing difficulties. And I was like, you really need to find that confidence within yourself. Tell yourself that you can do it. He's like, Mama, I can't. I was like, Ntsako, let me tell you something. He's like, yes, Mama. What is it? I'm like, I'm going to challenge myself. I have a very low self-esteem. I lack confidence. I cannot address a crowd. I can't speak in public. But this is something that I'm going to do to show you that anything is possible. I'm going to enter Mrs. South Africa. He was like, what?
That's
Mom, you know how they are.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to enter Mrs. South Africa. He's like, what, Mom? Are you serious? I'm like, yes. He's like, Mom, that's huge. I'm like, watch me. I remember going to, I think they had, the casting was in Clearwater, if I'm not mistaken. I told my mom, please bring Ntsako with. Both my parents came, they came with Ntsako. After they called my name, you should have seen the reaction on my side. So he was like, Mom, did you really do this? I'm like, yes, Ntsako. I just want to show you that if you put your mind to it, anything is possible. I was really nervous that day. I don't want to lie. I was literally shaking. My husband was there. All my kids were there. My mom, my dad. Everyone was just there, but I couldn't even get anything down, not even a bottle of water. It was nerve-wracking, but I was like, I'm gonna do this for Ntsako. I'm doing this for Ntsako. Do you understand?
Isn't that phenomenal?
Yes.
It is.
So hence I've also started an organization, or rather a foundation, called Ntsako Foundation, whereby we want to help kids like Ntsako and myself to become the better version of themselves. Yeah, we teach them skills. Yeah, we teach them how to bake, because I also do bake as well. It's a skill that I had to teach myself, because it's not guaranteed that you'll always have your job. Do you understand? So there's something that you need to have a skill of. Yeah, or
we
to
always
add
have to
on.
eat, don't we?
We always have to eat, definitely. So I do bake as well. So give Ntsako your phone. Tell him, Ntsako, take a picture of me. He does wonders. I see him sitting there one day. Trust me. I once told you about it, right? It's also a skill. Do you understand? That you learn along the way.
Yes.
So give him a camera. He does wonders. So it's a skill that he has. So I don't want him growing up to think that, you know what, just because of I was in an Elson class. And if you look at it, if you look at the statistics, doctor, most kids who go to Elson schools, they don't complete. They end up giving up. Yeah, they end up quitting school. They end up going into crime, prostitution. They end up committing suicide. And that's why I opened up Ntsako Foundation, so that we can help such children to find themselves, to, you know, to find it within themselves, to develop themselves.
How
so
awesome.
yeah, so yeah.
How awesome.
Awesome. Where is he now? What is?
So he repeated grade 4. He first repeated grade 1. So with foundation phase, you can only repeat once. Right now, you can only repeat once. So they had to condone him up until grade 4. Last year he was in grade 4. He repeated grade 4. He's still in grade 4. He's really struggling. I really don't want to lie. He's really struggling. I remember we took him last year, November, we took him to a child psychologist?
Yes.
So that they can assess him. It was discovered that he has an IQ of 66%, if I'm not mistaken, which is very low. You know, and so he's well articulated. He can speak. He can have a conversation in English. But then give him books to study. Give him things to read. It's a challenge.
Sure.
Do you understand?
Doc, we just want you to jump in there. What could be the concern, and what can Tintswalo do now? Because I think a lot of parents, they probably are sitting with kids like that, and knowing ourselves as parents, like you know, because you know our community and our background, it's very not so kind, you know.
It isn't.
And as well as, I'm really proud of Tintswalo because she is a curious parent. But you have those parents that are not curious, that are not concerned, that are thinking my background, my ego, my pride, whatever, and they don't take into heart what is actually happening. And Tintswalo is sitting here today saying we are taking steps. What are your thoughts around that?
It's phenomenal that you have started this foundation. I think I do believe that we need many, many more of them, and many, many more scattered all over the place. I also believe that programs like Present Yourself with Impact, which is a program that will assist children, young children and teenagers, into themselves to understand who they really are and how their brains really function. And we must remember that intellectual quotient, again, on those psychometric tests, is not always as accurate as perhaps it could be if it was done in another way. And
another language.
And another language. And another language. So intellectual quotient and emotional quotient, the two should be balanced as we develop. But we lack that because the IQ is not developed as the stages should be, let's put it, where they should be accurately achieved. And when a child has a barrier to learning, teachers most often don't have the time to spend with that child. And that is usually in the foundation phase. So grade R, grade 1 is where we're looking at those issues. We know, because we have an earlier grade, we have grade RR and grade RR. We can now identify them earlier and sooner. But I do believe that it depends on how much activity the child has enjoyed to that point. And then those skills development programs that you're talking about now are just a little bit more mature in practicality than they were when the child should have been developing at a much earlier age.
Yeah.
Like your measuring spoons and your stirring and
Yep.
what kind of consistency will you get if you stir it this way, and if you
Yeah.
knead it, what kind of consistency will you get. Those are skills which we teach children, very young children, with block building and
Building
word
blocks, puzzles.
producing words and coming up with sounds and
Yeah.
being able to articulate in our own languages first. And those are often where that gap is.
Yeah.
So it's awesome to hear that, and I hope with today's broadcast and podcast that many more people will contact you and say, how do we do it?
How do we do it?
How do we do it? And now we're getting so many more children coming from outside of our suburbs into our schools,
Yeah.
and they have so much opportunity to gain insight from you. I'm not necessarily talking about those who are at private schools and have perhaps better opportunities than others, but I'm talking about the majority. And I really believe that with this broadcast you're going to have a lot of that. You can encourage them.
Yes, a lot
Yes,
of
yes.
parents will come out. Will
Yes.
come out because they get so stuck with their kids and the stigma, like you were saying earlier. They get stuck with the stigma, and they're thinking, even if I do come out, where do I go?
Yes.
You
So
know.
where do I even begin?
Yes,
Correct,
so
correct.
true.
So the first thing we do is go to the Department of Education, and then they put them on waiting lists because there are not enough
Yep.
registered ELSON schools
Yep.
in our areas, in our communities. And so those are the things that we need to be doing as community initiatives to really build our children from young. The self-esteem has to be built from literally from the time that they are born. And we give it to them now. If a mother is overwhelmed with life and financial pressures and food prices increasing and
And all
not
of
being
this.
able to find jobs and all of that sort of thing, it becomes an even more challenging problem
yeah.
for her and then subsequently the child.
That's true.
Yeah.
And while we're still on that, even Zako, he's on the waiting list. He's still waiting for placement from the district. So, and he's really struggling. Talking about it, even this morning, I got a message from his science teacher. Ntsako didn't do his assignment. Not that he didn't do it. He's really struggling to understand because he doesn't fit in. It's very difficult for him.
It's comprehension.
Yeah.
And comprehension is written, it's heard, it's seen, it's heard, it's verbalized. However, what do you do if you're processing in a different language?
Sure.
And then you have to interpret that. And so it's all about comprehension at the end of the day.
It's so true. One of the assessors that was assessing my son was saying, because we were looking into mathematics and stuff, it's like the biggest challenge is not the mathematics. The biggest challenge is the language, that is mathematics in English. So if you cannot decode English in that sense, then mathematics is going to be a bit more challenging for you. And just to go back a bit, when Ntsako, that you are on the waiting list, right?
Tintswalo, yeah,
Tintswalo,
Ntsako is on the waiting
Oh my gosh. Ntsako is on the waiting list, and you, Tintswalo, as a parent, and you are going through this. Just to touch base on that, Dr. Tracey, because I believe that the Gap College is one of these schools, but you've been facing quite a lot of challenges. Take us through a bit of those challenges that you've been facing.
Thank you, Ria. It's good to be able to talk about them.
Yes.
Nobody wants to talk about the difficult stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to sweep it under the carpets.
Yeah.
So as an NGO in the educational field, one still has to register the school as an ECD centre with the Department of Health because of the physical disabilities and perhaps the mental difficulties that some of our children have. One has to register the school as a school environment with the Department of Education, hence our registration as an ELSON school. However, unless the NGO can afford to buy premises, you have no security of tenure. So a lot of NGOs are renting space and are getting very little funding in, because funding is being squeezed now.
Yeah,
There
it's
is,
even more.
yes, even more so than ever before. There's a very small, thin parcel of donors, and you have to have a really good pitch to get to them, for them to even hear you.
Yeah,
even
listen
open
to you.
yes.
Just for you to come and read your email, at least.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And my heart is with those smaller NGOs. And there are people who do help the smaller NGOs, but often they don't have the finances to have their licenses renewed and everything that they need to be compliant to have that done.
Sure.
With insecurity of tenure, if your landlord owes the city council arrears in rates or electricity or water or any of the utilities, you as a tenant are threatened with closure all the time, or disconnection of utilities at the very least, which would impact the entire program, the entire school. And we've had that impact many times over the last 5 years, until we got to a point where the landlord decided also an NGO, but not the NGO had closed. And what NGOs are supposed to do is to transfer over to similar NGO or similar NPO for the benefit of the community. So there's no interruption in the flow. So similar NGO just takes over and off you go. You can be partnered in some way. They can provide the premises to you. They can provide the property. That did not happen with us. We found ourselves in a very, very difficult and awkward situation, and the landlord wanted to sell the property as a commercial property. Now, how they got that right, I have no idea. The NPO directorate is looking into it, but these things take time. So what happened was we were forced out of our premises, and we had to find premises which were suitable for our children, ending up in much smaller premises, but obviously with much, I would say, having had an impact on those people who with the Department of Education, and also having had a sense of the lack of interest in the communities who so desperately need funding, finances,
and the facilities,
and the services. And the services are being provided by NGOs, which, by the way, is a sector which employs a lot of young unemployed people. So we really are foundations, NGOs, NPOs. We employ a lot of young people to upskill them, which is something we do as well. We also upskill our assistant teachers and caregivers into ECD facilitators, which we desperately need. So it's a huge problem, and I had no idea until we went through this experience over the last year of the difficulties. And having spoken to people in high positions, I'm told by a reliable source that it doesn't matter the number of children who are put into a classroom as long as those children are not on the streets.
I think that's
that for me was extremely disappointing.
It is.
And very, very hurtful, and it made disturbing, and it made me even more
we want to say angry, but we're looking for another word, okay?
It made me even more deliberate and intentional to bring this community sector, these sectors, to the forefront of the media.
Wow, Dr. Look at you. Oh, mommy. Dr. Tracey, I like how many kids did you have? I remember it was close to almost 98 or even more.
That is correct. So
and how many kids are you left with if you had to vacate your beautiful schools and premises?
Fortunately, we didn't lose too many.
Okay.
We are left with, we're counting now, we're left with about 63, 64, and we've got enrollments all the time. But the other children are not necessarily placed, or they're placed in incorrect positions, incorrect schools, incorrect places, which is a concern. It's a really big concern for me. And that is because we lost tenure of the premises. Now, this is one. We are only one of how many? How many are being treated in the same manner?
Exactly. How many are closing down?
How many are closing
How
down?
many teachers are losing their jobs as well? How many families are left to go hungry?
Correct. Correct. It has a massive field of consequences.
Yeah. And I think as well, the lack of agency around it. I think for me, it's the one part that really gets me angry. I'm going to use anger, it's me, okay? Not Dr. Tracey, me. It makes me angry, and it makes me feel so disappointed at the Department of Education, whereas you know very well that there is this school that is existing, there's this NGO that is existing, and they're in this facility. What can we do to salvage so that we don't have kids that are on the waiting list? You know?
Correct.
And it's one of few. I have cousins, I have friends that are coming up like Ria, because I'm associated with the Gap College, because I'm the ambassador for the Gap College. So everybody, when they think of the school, they think of me. I'm like, I don't know what, I don't have answers anymore. You know? Because of that is there is that lack of agency by our government when coming to kids that need special attention. We find them that they go to normal schools like Nzako is, and the only thing that they can do is they will not progress him. They will keep him to a class where his confidence dies, not because he's incapable, but because of the facility is not allowing. That's one. The language barrier, that is two, and as well as there is no movement with the government in terms of placement. Parents are pushing more and more kids to the normal schools, and you almost like have to fend for yourself, find the confidence, be like Tintswalo, because Tintswalo, you are the example of how to really make it. But there are others that cannot. There are others that, like you said, they are feeling suicidal. There are others that are being closed in the closet. There are others that have given up completely. Crime is one of them, like you were mentioning as well, because they're like, I don't care. The society never cared about me. So who am I to care about the society as well? So Dr. Tracey, that is what can we do? What is the next thing that we can do as a society, as a community, to rally around the Gap College to ensure that we have more and more kids coming through? 20 kids, it's a lot, almost 25 kids. It might sound like it's a small number, but when you look at the needs of those kids, it's a huge number.
It is a huge number.
Yeah.
Having more podcasts like this, and thank you so much to you.
Definitely.
And yes, exposing more young people, like the producers that we have here. Our young people, the one thing I'm finding is, and we've just lost a 12-year-old to the streets. Because he comes from a child-headed household who has had 2 babies of her own, and he was the little brother. Doing so well at our school, doing so well, building up self-esteem. And then we had the closure of the school for a while, and we can't find him. He's now a missing child. We cannot find him anywhere. And to rally around underneath the community, inside the communities, to give them the opportunity to speak out, to vent their angers, to be able to say, I'm so angry, I don't want to go and hurt anybody, but I'm angry. Who do I speak to?
Where do I even start?
Yes, because anger can often go into depression, and most likely can cause that, because where does a child vent?
Yep.
if they're not at school. If they don't have a teacher or a parent to vent to, what is available for them?
Yeah.
There's nothing available to them.
True. And talking about depression, I've been through that stage before.
Sure.
Even with Ntago's father, he is trying his level best to, try and get him into the right school, but we are constantly depressed. We are co-parenting, right? But we are constantly depressed. We are constantly, we are emotionally drained. It is tiring.
It is draining.
Yes,
because
it is.
you get to, you will receive messages every day, like you were sharing today,
This
this morning is that
Yeah.
it's not because of the child, it's because of the facility and where the
Yes.
child is placed.
Exactly.
And then that's bringing the
Exactly.
challenge
Yeah.
for you, and constantly have to receive that. I mean, I received demerit as well with my kids, but apparently one did not do their homework because they forgot their book, or that is like minor. But when you have a child that really needs their help, and they have to constantly go to a school or facility and they're challenged themselves,
Yeah.
it becomes a bigger gap.
Yes, it's
does.
overwhelming to the child.
Yeah,
It
It
is.
really
And
is.
even my mom, like, she's also exhausted. She's tired. My mom and my husband, they try by all means to help Nzago. Even now, I'm sure he's sitting outside with his laptop trying to do the assessment that they told us about for him. Do you understand? So yeah, we'll see how everything turns out.
Sure.
Oh, I wish you
Yeah.
well with that. The problem
Yeah.
is that our teachers are also becoming overwhelmed, because
They
how do you
are.
teach properly
Yes.
when you have 70 children in your class?
100%.
I mean,
How?
it's impossible.
It is, the day isn't long enough.
Yeah.
You don't have enough time. And then how do we look after our teachers to keep them in the sector, in the profession?
Sure. That's another podcast, guys.
Another one,
Sure.
yes.
Then how do we keep them sane? When they're looking after
Yes.
all the mix of kids
Yes.
that they have. I'm struggling to do homework with my daughter. Okay?
Yes.
It's like, she's 8 years old, but tell me about DBE, okay? I get some form of something, because I'm like, my child, in my time there was no DBE, okay? So
Do you know grade 2 mathematics?
It's killing me.
Yeah.
But just in closing, ladies, I mean, we're having a good conversation and it can go on, and it's like so, so important for us to have this conversation. Just your closing remarks in terms of the Gap College and parents as well, and where they can find help.
Thank you very much. Again, thank you for the opportunity to everyone, especially to you, Ria. They can call us if they would like to, and perhaps the telephone number can be provided by your channel. That would be great. They can email us or go onto the website. It's very simple. It's Gap College. And we are here to upskill young people. We have the Present Yourself with Impact course, which builds self-esteem right from the little ones. And we're able to assess children in a different way. We use different methodologies. We have on-site therapies available to the children, so that we have all the specialist needs in one area. And if anybody is willing to reach out and find out how we can help them in terms of an NGO and building up an NGO, or the challenges that they would be facing, that they shouldn't feel on their alone. They shouldn't feel as though they're on their own. There are many, many, many more facing exactly the same challenges. And perhaps to bring many of those foundations and NGOs together, so that we can serve a bigger community and have a bigger impact.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you so
and you, Tintswalo, Mrs. South Africa 2026. Yes, semi-finalist.
So I would like to say to a parent that's more like me, to fight for their children, to fight for the rights of their children, to build confidence within them, to give them that strength, that courage, that you know what, it is possible. Even if you think you cannot, you will.
That is awesome. And also to moms to take care of themselves.
Exactly.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
That's very
Fill
important.
your cup so that you are not empty when you're giving to your children.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Well
And where
done.
can they find you, Tintswalo? Where can they find you? We know that we are voting or something. So tell us more about that.
Oh, I don't think I even know the voting number by head, but
I wish I could help. I don't know it either.
but
where
can
can they
find me
find you?
on my social pages. They can find me on my Instagram,
Yeah.
which is my full name, Tintswalo, TK with T-E-E-K-A-Y.
Okay.
And then they can also find me on Facebook, Tintswalo TK with TK.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then they're more than welcome to contact me on my WhatsApp number, which is 071-4838-202.
Okay.
And we can just build each other up from there.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
And you can also find her on the Mrs. South Africa page, okay? If you're struggling to find her, just go for that page and you will find it. Of course, Dr. Tracey, you will find her on social media as well.
Yeah.
If you're struggling to find Gap College, come to me, okay? Follow me like you always do. I know you do, right?
Yeah.
So follow me and then I will link you up with these two amazing women. And with that said today, I'd like to thank you ladies for really coming
you.
through.
Yeah.
Tintswalo, for sharing your powerful story and your
Thank
advocacy.
you.
We wish you all the best. I mean, skills development and literacy in South Africa at
Yeah.
this time
Yeah.
is much needed, and we are saying we are right behind you. We are, we
you.
are holding all the flags to say skills
Absolutely.
development, literacy. Hey, call Tintswalo, okay?
Absolutely.
Right.
Thank you
And we
so
are saying that. And
much.
Dr. Tracey, we are really honored to always have you, to access your wisdom,
Yeah.
and as well your knowledge and your school.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you. And thank you to you all.
Yeah. And if you are a parent or yourself and you need some help and you don't know where to go, you've got sort of like whatever gap that you have in your mind in terms of school, education, literacy, we have people that will help you. And to the government, alas, Mr. Gaten, we might need to talk about. I saw you were in the awards very recently, so I'm saying please do come and let's talk more about education. And I know that you're not in education, but you're in arts and culture. But I know your influence in the arts and culture, and this is the sort of like the platform that helps us to bridge the gap between the education and the arts and culture. And like Tintswalo was saying, that our kids, if they cannot read or write, they can use their skills, and these are the kind of platforms that they can actually develop themselves in. So let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation as a nation. Let's have a conversation as parents, as women and children that are also struggling with this. And you know where to find me. There's your girl, obviously, the woman of controversial engagements. And you can find me at W.O.C.E_Ria Sia. I am your girl on YouTube everywhere.
Wonderful.
Beautiful.